Hey folks, welcome back to the channel. In today's tutorial, we're going to be talking about how to do data merge in Adobe InDesign. This video is going to be a very simple example, perfect for those who haven't done a data merge before. I do have some more complex examples on my channel, so feel free to check those out. If you haven't subscribed to the channel already, please do me a favor, hit that subscription button down below. Also give the video a thumbs up. It goes a long way to helping with the YouTube algorithm. Okay, so what is InDesign data merge? Basically, this is how you do variable data with Adobe InDesign. With Photoshop and Illustrator, they refer to it as variables. In InDesign, they refer to it as data merge. So for today's example, I have a little gym membership card. And essentially what we're going to do is we're going to replace a photo, this barcode, and then some lines of text here. Now, data merge is a perfect tool to use if you have to do this for, let's say, 50 or 100 different people. Obviously, going through and changing all of this information one by one is going to be very time consuming. So if we do it with a data merge, we can create all of those 50 or 100 or 200 examples very quickly. However, we need to start with a database. So before I talk about how we're going to map all of these fields, let's go ahead and take a look at the database that we're going to be working with today. Now, I have this set up in Google Sheets. You can use Microsoft Excel. You can also use a program like LibreOffice. I've done that on several of my other videos. All of those programs will work just fine. We just need to make sure when we save our database, we are saving it as either a TXT file or a CSV file. Those are the two formats that InDesign are going to recognize for our data. So first things first, when you set up your data, you're going to want to put header rows for all the columns. And this is basically just as a identifier for when we open up the data in Adobe InDesign. So you can see here I have a first name, a last name, the ID number, how long the person's been a member for the gym, a photo, when their membership expires, and then the barcode that you see here in the InDesign file. So InDesign can pass through three different types of data, either text, a photo or image of some kind, and some kind of barcode. Now, for most normal text fields, you just leave this as a regular old text. So in this case, first name, we're going to map that over here to where this person's first name is. However, when we get to a field like a photo, where in this case I have a whole bunch of JPEG images that we're going to be using, you need to make sure to use the @ symbol at the beginning of your data field here in your header row. A quick tip is to use the apostrophe symbol at the very beginning before the @ symbol, and that's because programs like Excel have the @ symbol registered basically as a special character. So to avoid any confusion, you just put that apostrophe. That way when you export this data, it'll basically ignore that and it'll just show it as the @ symbol. That way when you open it up in InDesign, it'll map the field properly. Sometimes what will happen is if you forget to do that and you're using Excel, you export the data, and then when you try to bring it into your data merge, it just shows up as text instead of an actual JPEG image. You can use more than a JPEG. You can use PNG files. You can use PDFs. There's lots of different examples. For this case, just a simple JPEG image is what we're going to be using today for the person's photo. So lastly here, you can also pass through barcode data. And again, this is very similar to the photo field here, where we have a hashtag as the first character. I also put a apostrophe here as well, just again, so if you're using Excel, you want to make sure to put that so that there's no confusion with the first character here. So the barcode is what is going to produce this QR code for us today. Now you can use barcode data with different types of text, but we're not going to get into that today. today it's going to be simply just to show you what the capabilities are. So I have my data set up here. The way this barcode works is if this person's expiration date is before the current date, then it'll show up as valid. If it's after the current date, then it'll show up as invalid. So in this case, or excuse me, the other way around. So in this case, the person's ID expires in 2026. This video is being done in 2025, so this will show up as valid. This person already passed their 2025 expiration date, so it shows up as invalid. Don't get too hung up on all of the functions or anything like that. This is just to show the capabilities of the barcode in InDesign, and I have it set so there's two different values here so that you can actually see it change. So once I have all my data set up, I'm going to export this as a CSV. One thing to keep in mind also, if you are using images just like this, you want to make sure to put those in the same folder that your CSV file is going to be put in. So in this case, I've already saved the CSV file here, and I've put it in this photos folder inside my main folder here, and I have all of my images here as well. The reason why is if you do not put them in the same folder together as your CSV file, you're going to have to put a absolute reference path to this JPEG image. So instead of just saying, you know, Gary Singleton JPEG, which is showing up right here, you're going to have to put, you know, what your volume is, or if you're on a PC, you know, what hard drive and all that stuff. So if you want to make it simple, then you can just go ahead and put the CSV file in the same folder that you're referencing your JPEG images with. Unless you have these JPEG images stored throughout the course of your computer, then like I said, you're going to have to put an absolute reference to those files. So since I'm using Google Sheets here, I'm just going to go up to File, Download, and do this as a comma separated value, CSV file. And like I said, I've already done this. So I've put my CSV file in the same folder as my photos, and now I don't have to put that absolute reference. So once my data file is all set up, what I'm going to do is now go back to InDesign, and I'm going to remap all of these fields to my actual data. So the way you do that is you go up to Window here, and you're going to go down to Utilities, and you're going to go to Data Merge. Now the first thing it's going to ask you to do is to select the data source. So I'm going to click the little hamburger menu here, and I'm going to go Select Data Source, and I'm going to navigate to that file. You can see right here, this is the file that I have, InDesign Data Merge, CSV. I'm going to click Open, and when I open that CSV file, it's going to give me a list of all of the header rows. So you can see here, all these columns of data correspond exactly to the data sets here in the CSV file. And as you can notice here, there's three types. There's the text file, there's a photo that has this little image icon, and then a barcode that has this little barcode icon. So now what we need to do is we need to map all of these fields to the designated places that we want in our InDesign file. So here I'm going to start with the person's name. So I'm going to erase this Mike Jones here, and I'm going to put first, I'll put a space, and I'll put last. And you can see these come in with these little brackets. These are essentially just placeholders. Don't worry if you are doing this and there's overset text. It'll show up with a little plus button down here in the corner. Just know that the placeholders are there. They may have too many characters to display, but once you go ahead and hit preview down here, you'll see that information change. And before I do that, I'm just going to fill out the rest of these here. So I have member since, so I'm going to click that. This is the ID down here, ID number, and expiration date, so expires. Now for barcode and the photo, what I want to do is I want to use my direct select tool here, and I'm going to delete the photo that exists in this photo frame here. I'm going to go back to my regular selection tool here. I'll click on this and I'll click photo. And you can see when I do that, it puts this bracket here. It looks like it's kind of out of place, but what'll happen is it'll put the photo inside of this frame, this circular frame here, when we go to preview everything. And I'm going to do the same thing down here for my barcode. I'm going to just delete that. I'm going to click on it again, and I'm going to click barcode. And same thing here. You can see barcode doesn't fit, but it doesn't really matter. As soon as I hit my preview here, you can see what it's going to do. Now, a quick tip before we do that, you want to click the hamburger menu here, and we want to go to content placement options. And this is going to help with how these photos and QR codes are being displayed. Sometimes if you have a large photo that you're passing in, if you don't change it to fit to the frame here, it's just going to have just a small portion of the photo, and obviously we don't want that. So here I have everything fitting to fill frames proportionally, so it's going to basically fit that person's photo in here, fill the frame all the way up, and then here I have center in frame selected, so it's going to put it right in the middle of that frame. Sometimes you don't want to do that if it's a frame that's, you know, up here to the right for some reason or to the left for some reason, but in this case we just want to put it right in the center of the frame. I also have this line checked here that says remove blank lines for empty fields. So let's say, for instance, this person didn't have a last name, their first name was just Jim, and they didn't have a last name. So if you are missing data for whatever reason, it'll automatically just omit that when you do the data merge. So I always leave this checked. So I'm going to hit OK. I'm going to hit my preview here, and now I can see all of the data being passed into these different fields here, including the barcode and the photo frame here. I'm going to hit my W key to show just a preview, and now you can see this person's photo, their name, Gary Singleton, their member since 1/1/2004. Here's their ID number, and if I go back to my data set here in Sheets, you can see this all corresponds with all of this data for this particular record. Now if I go back here and I just hit this little arrow key, I can cycle through all of the different records, and you can see not only does this information change here, here, and here, their photo changes, but the actual QR code is changing as well. You can see that change there. Now this QR code is the same because if you go back in here, both of their barcodes should show invalid, and then the rest of the folks should show as valid. So if I just cycle through here, there's only 7 records or 6 records of data. You can see everything has changed, and we are now ready to execute the data merge. So I'll uncheck my preview here, I'll hit my W key again, and now we can do one of two things. If your file is print ready and you're confident that everything is going to be good to go, you don't have any overset text. Obviously this is a pretty simple data merge. We don't have any long lines of text anywhere that's going to overset a text frame. Then I can just click the hamburger menu and I can go export to PDF. I'll click all records. We're not going to do a multi-up record layout, so in this case we just want to leave it on single record. If you do multiple records, this is where you would lay it out multiple up on a sheet. In this case, we're just doing them one by one, so we don't want to do that. We just want to keep it on single record. I always just leave these two checked here. That way, at the end, if there's any overset text, if someone had too long of a name or something like that, it'll give you a warning, and it'll let you know what page that there was overset text on. Same thing here. If there's any missing images, it'll tell you at the end, hey, you know, you're missing an image on page 5 or whatever. And normally that just comes from when you type out your data here, you maybe made a spelling mistake and the two names don't match up with what you have for your file name and then what you have it listed here. But those are good ways to basically check to make sure that you're not missing any photos and you're also not missing any overset text. So multiple record layout, we're not going to do anything with that. Options, this is where we set everything previously, but if you want to change something up here, you can do that. So if I'm all ready, I'm going to hit OK. Here it's going to ask you for your export PDF settings. I have a preset already here, so I'm just going to go ahead and click export, and then it's going to ask you to save it. So I'll just hit save, and you can see very quickly it's running through all of the data on here, and it's going to tell me at the end, no overset text was generated when merging the records. So that way I know everything fits exactly as it should, and it'll open this PDF up in Acrobat, and I can kind of scroll through again here, and you can see all of these different records are set up and are ready to go as PDFs. So that's one way to export your data. Now, sometimes you do want to go ahead and just create your data merge with the idea that you're going to make edits down the road. So in that case, what we're going to do is, instead of clicking the flyout here, well, we could do it that way, but we can also just hit this little button right here that says create merge data. Now, when I do this, it's going to have a very similar setup here. We can ask for a single record, multiple records. This is exactly like we just did when we made the PDF, except that this time when I hit OK, what it's going to do is, instead of exporting everything as a PDF, it's going to create a brand new InDesign document, which we can make further edits to. So you can see here, same thing came up, no overset text was generated, so I hit OK. But now, instead of a PDF, I have this new InDesign document that has the same name as the original document, except it has a -1 on there. And basically, whereas this one was just a single page PDF here, you can see here, I just have a single page PDF, or excuse me, single page InDesign document. If you export it as a PDF, it would be a multi-page PDF file. Well, in this case, it's a multi-page InDesign document. So now if I scroll through down here, you can see each one of these pages have the data set already exported for me to a brand new InDesign document, and now I can come in here and I can make further changes if I wanted to. So if I realize maybe I misspelled her name and she just wants to go by Sam, I can make that edit, and now I can go ahead and export this as a PDF, print-ready PDF to send off to my printer. It also allows you, sometimes if you have a lot of records where there's a lot of long names, things like that, and you don't want to, let's say you had a really, really long name here. So maybe her name was Carrollton or something like that, and obviously that's going to produce a overset text warning. If you tried to set this up in your original InDesign document, you may have to make the text very, very small, and it might not format the way that you want it to. So the way to do it is to just go ahead and do your data merge, and then now for this particular person, I can go ahead and I can shrink her font down just a little bit while leaving the other fonts intact. So that way it's not like a global change, it's just a change for one individual person. So that's a good tip, especially if you have, a few hundred records and they're all long names, or maybe they're big addresses or something like that, where you're probably going to run into some overset text problems. If you try to just make a PDF, you'll probably get like a dozen warnings or something like that. So it's better just to go ahead and create the new InDesign document and then make the individual changes as necessary. So that's basically it. That wraps up how to do a data merge. There are obviously much more complex examples. You can do a lot more things with this, and I plan on doing more videos in the near future on how to do some things with marketing and some unique things with data merge. But that gives you a basic rundown of how to do data merge from scratch. It's a very useful tool, especially if you are doing things like this where you have to repeat a lot of layout for many, many records. I do it all the time at work for numbering tickets and forms, tons of different examples. So a good tool to use, especially if you are an InDesign user that deals with a lot of print files. If you have any questions, please leave them down below. Again, what I'll be doing with this video is I'll be posting it on my Patreon page with all of the files. So if you want to download any of this to use for samples for yourself, that'll be available for purchase for only $5, unless you are a paid Patreon member, and then you get access to that for free. So I'll leave a link down in the description to the video. Again, if you have any questions, please post them down below. I'm happy to answer any of those. I'm happy to do any videos if anybody has anything in mind that they want to see. I appreciate the views. Thanks for watching, folks. And as always, I will catch you on the next one.